I currently see a vocal coach who recently taught me how to find my hyoid bone here in the throat and give it a little bit of a jiggle around or a manipulation, which she says is a useful way to warm up the vocal tract before doing a long bout of speaking, like we're about to do right now. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be doing another one of these long form Q&A videos. So if you're new here, what I do is I jump into my Instagram and I popped up a question box, and I'm going to be scrolling through here and selecting a few questions to be answering in detail for you right now in this video. So I do something similar to this every single day on Instagram and on Facebook, where I do live stream videos where I answer your questions. However, given the nature of live stream videos, it's sometimes hard for me to be able to go to the same level of detail that I would like to when answering some of these questions, which is what this video is all about. It's going to let me answer the questions that I want to in a little bit more detail to give you guys as much context and all the different things to be considering with respect to some of these more nuanced questions. So let's get stuck straight into it and try to answer as many questions as I can before this turns into a super duper duper long video that nobody wants to pay attention to and watch all the way through. So, I will also be putting timestamps below of where all the different questions are that I end up answering, so you can jump ahead to whatever question that you want to watch or rewatch and revise over again, or you can come back to it. You can watch a little bit now, stop, go do something else, come back later, and pick right up where you left off. Of course, I would appreciate it if you just watched all the way through, because that helps crack that YouTube algorithm to help this channel grow, which means that I can create more videos just like this for you guys. Anyway, let's find a question, shall we? Enough preamble. All right, James Owen 95 is asking, if I only take creatine on training days, i.e. 4 times a week, does it still have the same effect? In short, yes. But let me give you a little bit more detail. So the reason why people are taking creatine, and I think just about everybody should be taking creatine, because it's cheap, it's inexpensive, it's very, very well researched, has a lot of benefits, and it's very, very well tolerated, and there aren't any known side effects that have been shown in any research from long-term supplementation. So first of all, with that out of the way, probably take some creatine. The main reason why people take creatine is to improve their performance in the gym. Creatine is something that's going to improve your strength, your power output, and your ability to recover when you're training in the gym, which would then translate to you being able to handle more work, whatever that means for you inside the gym, which means more potential for you to stimulate the gains that you want, whatever it is those gains may be. Whether it's muscle building or strength or power or endurance, whatever it may be, creatine will help you do those things better. It's typically taken at a dose of about 3 to 5 grams every single day. And the reason why we do this is not to get an immediate response. Like, it's not like caffeine where you have caffeine and within half an hour or so you get that ergogenic benefit from the caffeine stimulating your nervous system. Creatine is something that's going to give you a lot more benefits when it's taken over a longer period of time, because your body needs to increase its saturation stores or its pool of creatine within the body, which it can then pull from to use for the energy production cycle when you're training in the gym. So that's what people normally recommend taking it every single day. And if you were to take it at that dose of like 3 to 5 grams every single day, it takes, I believe, about 3 to 4-ish weeks. Again, everybody's a little bit different. 3 to 4-ish weeks to reach that peak saturation point where it's going to be providing you the most benefits. But of course, before that, it is still going to be providing you with some benefits. So the question is, if you're only taking it 4 days a week, will it still have the same effect? Well, short answer is yes. It will just probably take a little bit longer to reach that peak saturation point. So if you took it every single day, it's going to get there in maybe 4 weeks. If you took it 4 days a week, it may take 5, 6, or 7 weeks. And there isn't really a good way to be measuring this that you can really do practically speaking as someone who's just training in the gym. But it's just more than enough reason to say, take the creatine. And don't worry if you miss a day here and there. If you were to go completely cold turkey and stop taking creatine altogether, it takes about, again, that 4 to 6-ish week period for your creatine stores to return back down to the baseline before taking creatine. So if you were taking creatine every single day or even 4 days a week, and then you reach up to that point of that saturation point after 4, 6, 8 weeks, however long it may be, if you were to then scale back to say a couple of times a week or 3 times a week, or in this case 4 times a week, that should be enough to be able to maintain a relatively high amount of creatine within your body for your body to utilize when you're training in the gym. But that's looking at creatine purely from the perspective of improving performance in the gym. And I think that's a humongous benefit that we should all be taking creatine for. But I also believe that there are many other benefits to creatine that I think people just sort of overlook, or they're not even aware of. So creatine is a substance that your body can produce, and it will produce on its own within the liver. So that's why you can get away with not taking it if you wanted to. Like, it's not an essential supplement, not that I think any supplement is really essential, but your body can produce it endogenously, or within the body. However, in order to do this, it is relatively metabolically expensive. What this means, in less geeky words, is that it requires a lot of resources, and it calls upon certain processes, which is known as methylation in the body, which could be better utilized in other areas. So your body goes through this process called methylation to produce creatine. This methylation process could also be used for the production or the reparation of DNA or of cells. It could be going towards the detoxification of neurotransmitters or hormones, or the production of hormones. But if it's being drawn away, and a large portion of its resources are being drawn away towards the production of creatine instead, you could potentially see where there may be some shortfalls in the production of hormones, in the metabolism of hormones, in the reparation of DNA, in the reparation of cell membranes, or the production of cell membranes, all those kinds of things. And they're things that we should be focusing more on for the methylation process, especially when you consider how cheap, easily accessible, and readily available something like creatine is. And you can definitely get that benefit of like consuming less of these methylation resources by taking creatine just 4 days a week instead of taking it every single day. So it's another big tick in the box for creatine. Just start taking it. And of course, I know I'm going to get the question in the comment section below, creatine monohydrate. Don't worry about all the other fancy forms of creatine. The most researched form out there that has all the benefits to it is creatine monohydrate. And it outperforms most of all the other fancy designer options of creatine that are available on the market. All right. Next question. Okay. DT.Nakamura is asking, what are the main differences between an aggressive mini diet and a crash diet, in inverted commas? Inverted comments, not comments. All right, so I guess it really just comes down to semantics and to the ways you define things. I do see them as two very different things. Okay, you hear the word mini diet, or I say the word mini diet, and in my mind, what I'm thinking of is an intelligent, structured way to aggressively cut calories. Like, I might go through mini diet and I might cut someone's calories by, say, 40% from what they're currently doing, which is quite steep, quite aggressive, but it's for a purpose. It's for a strict period of time, or a set period of time, and it's going to create a certain response, probably of fat loss, in that period of time. The reason why I do like to go quite aggressive in this is that it's actually quite hard to lose muscle, provided that you're training intelligently and that you have sufficient amounts of protein. There's no reason why you can't drop your calories down quite a lot, and then your body will be demanded to use its body fat stores to fuel a lot of its daily energetic requirements. So it's a structured thing. Whereas a crash diet, on the other hand, is something that has more the connotation of being unstructured, it's being very emotional in terms of like when you choose to do it. It's like, oh, I feel fat today, I'm going to cut my calories. And so it creates this whole cycle of binging and yo-yoing. So I obviously don't recommend crash diets. I don't recommend doing anything in the gym or with your body that's based purely on emotional reasons. I think anything that we do with regards to our health, our training, and nutrition, our supplementation shouldn't be based on emotions. It should be based on logic. It should be based on trying to specifically elicit a certain outcome. It should be done for a set period of time. It should be planned out in advance, and it should be done with as little emotional influence as possible. And I mean, a little bit of a side rant. That's part of why, like, I'm so kind of heavily against a lot of the marketing, a lot of the influences that are out there, because things like Instagram, which I know that I'm on a lot as well, but it creates such a strong emotional attachment to a lot of different training styles. It creates a strong emotional attachment to certain supplements. Like, oh, look at this person. They're sponsored by a supplement brand and they look so good, which means the supplement must be so good to be taking. And people don't really go the extra mile to say, hang on, why is a supplement potentially useful? What's the logic behind using it? Is it beneficial? Is it beneficial for me? But they're making the decisions based on how some other random person looks, or what some other random authority figure decides to spout up and say, oh, just take the supplement. And that's part of like why when I share information like this, I'm really big on trying to make sure I give you guys as much context as I can as to why I think it's useful, how it works in the body, and why it may or may not be beneficial for you, so you can make a more informed, logical decision. And I mean, that's what we should be doing when we approach things like dieting. So again, like I really do like to use aggressive mini cuts or mini diets for people where I'll say, okay, for the next 6 to 12 weeks or however long it may be, we're going to do a big slash in your calories, and we're going to do this for X amount of time. We're going to expect this kind of result from it, and we're going to track these variables, and then we're going to change it as we need to. But it's not going to be just based on some random emotional thing of like, oh, I feel fat today, or I feel like I'm carrying too much water or whatever. I'm going to slash on my calories and not really account for this appropriately. I do think it can be done very intelligently. All right, next question. I guess we're going to go down a nutrition route today, are we? Sure. Abby.cadabra is asking, I've never tracked my food intake. Where do I begin? Is it even necessary as a noob? Newbie? Noob. Newbie. I think it is necessary to be tracking things. Okay, that's my opinion, but I do believe that it's not that hard to be doing. Okay, in the same way that I believe everybody should have some kind of knowledge and interest in budgeting their finances and understanding what they're spending each day, understanding what they're making each day, understanding what they have saved up in the bank. It's the exact same skill set you need to go about tracking calories and tracking macros. It's actually not very complicated. Now, I do understand how daunting it can seem to a beginner. Just like, when you first started maybe getting your first part-time job, it may have been daunting thinking about, oh, I'm making all this money now, or making some money now. And you started thinking about how much can I spend each week? You had to think about saving up to be able to buy something that you really wanted in the future. But again, that was something that you probably did when you were maybe like 14 years old or 13 years old, and it was so long ago, you don't even remember being so daunted by such a thing. And it just sort of came over time, where you started to make mistakes, you overspent some weeks, or you underspent other weeks, and you realize, oh, I've got some savings now. Same thing's gonna happen with your nutrition, is I would just say, just start. Where do I begin? Just start tracking your calories. Just start understanding on what is a calorie. What are macronutrients? How many calories, how many macronutrients are in some of the food that you eat? Start recording it. There are so many apps out there. Like you can use MyFitnessPal. I personally like Chronometer, but I don't even use that much anymore either. You can use a spreadsheet, you can use a pen and paper. Do whatever you want to just record what you're eating, and you can just jump on Google and say, I had an apple today. That apple weighed 80 grams. How many calories in 80 grams of an apple? And just start somewhere. Just start. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Don't worry about getting it right. Just worry about starting. And what you'll find is over time, you'll start to get better and better and better and better at it. You'll start to notice patterns and trends. You'll start to notice where you keep messing up. You'll start to notice where you're making errors. And then over time, and honestly, time sounds like a long time. It might not be that long. It could be just a couple of weeks. It could be a couple of months. Maybe at absolute most, it's a couple of years of tracking things and honing this skill. But once you've done that, you've got that skill for life. So just start. Keep it super, super simple. Don't worry about all the complexities of it. Just start with basic stuff. What is a calorie? What is a macronutrient? Maybe understand a little bit about what you might need on a daily basis, but you don't even need to worry about that. Just start with worrying about what are you currently eating? I'm guessing you're eating something at the moment. Start tracking that. And again, understanding, okay, this is what I'm currently eating on a day-to-day basis. This is how many calories I'm having. This is how many grams of protein, carbs, fat I'm having. And my body weight's staying the same. I'm guessing that's roughly where my maintenance intake must be at. And then you can start to make some more informed decisions long-term from there. All right, next one. I'm burning through these today. Go me, pat myself on the back. All right, Rina Saharan is asking, tips on women suffering from hypothalamic amenorrhea. That's a mouthful. That sounds really complicated, doesn't it? Hypothalamic amenorrhea. Hypothalamic amenorrhea, depending what part of the world you're from or how you want to talk. Very, very geeky, nerdy way of saying a woman who has lost her menstrual cycle, no longer getting a period, and it's due to something happening in her hypothalamus, which is the brain region. Which, in even less geeky terms, is saying that woman's lost her period because, in most cases, her body is stressed out. So the way that your body, the way that a female's body has a menstrual cycle or a period, is it all starts up in the brain. The brain sends out certain signals that go all the way down to a reproductive system to say, hey, start doing all that baby-making goodness that winds up with you having your period or your menstrual cycle every single month. If there is some kind of disruption happening up here in the brain, in what's known as the hypothalamus, that could start to have those downstream effects where you get this shutdown to the menstrual cycle. So what should be done about that? Now, first big disclaimer is I'm not a doctor, I'm not an endocrinologist, I'm not a women's hormone specialist or anything like that. I have worked with a few in the past, and that's where my knowledge comes from, but this is going to be, I guess, second-hand kind of information in that regard. But what I am someone who works with a lot of people as a trainer, as a coach, or have done a lot in the past. And when it comes to hypothalamic amenorrhea, loss of the menstrual cycle, that is extremely prevalent within the fitness industry in women when they aren't managing their nutrition, their lifestyle stress, their sleep, and their training intelligently. Because all of these things, when you're eating in a steep calorie deficit for a long period of time, when you are overstressed, not managing your stress levels appropriately, when you're not sleeping enough, and when you're doing way too much training volume, not managing training volume intelligently whatsoever, all of these start to accrue and accumulate a lot of extra stress within your body. And excess circulating stress hormones is one of the contributing factors that goes towards the disruption of this cycle from the brain to the reproductive system that gives a woman her period. So while I'm not going to be talking necessarily about, I guess, the endocrinology side of saying here's what you might do if you're seeing an endocrinologist, that's not my wheelhouse at all, what I should recommend is for women is look at your training. Are you doing too much volume? Chances are you probably are. Or I find, even if you're not a woman, I find most people are doing far too much volume. They're not really understanding how to be intelligent and frugal with what they're doing in the gym. My big thing with training is always trying to be as efficient as possible. Selecting the best exercises, setting them up intelligently, performing them hard and pushing yourself and doing enough sets and enough work, but making sure I'm not wasting any effort on useless time spent in the gym that could have been better spent out of the gym, resting. Where like if you're doing 30, 40 sets for a body part, if you're doing dozens of exercises, maybe not even dozen, but just if you're doing a dozen exercises for a body part within a single session, I'd probably say you're working very, very, very inefficiently. And there are much better ways that you could be choosing exercises and changing up your training to make it more efficient, which means you're going to accrue a lot less stress in your body from training. Of course, if you need to, just jump through a lot of my videos on here. You'll see a lot of different training sessions where I go through a lot of how I go about developing my training programs. I'm going to I'll link one up here. I'll link a leg day with my training partner, Cheryl Grant, up in the corner here. You can go watch that and learn a little bit more about training and training intelligently and efficiently. So with nutrition, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the biggest thing that's going to be disrupting a woman and her stress levels is being in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time. People don't realize this, but being in a calorie deficit is a stress on the body. Okay, your body senses that as a disruption to its homeostasis. The way that it responds, ideally, is going to be saying, hey, we have all excess fat lying around our body, let's pull some of that fat and turn it into usable ATP to be able to fuel our day-to-day functions. However, this doesn't go against the fact that it's still a stress on your body. And there are still stress hormones that are required to create this signaling to occur in the first place. And doing this for an extended period of time, or doing it maybe on a very aggressive level for a short period of time, this accumulates over time. And unfortunately I see, and this is something I see a lot more in women, although males aren't immune to this as well, is I see people are are spending way too long in a calorie deficit. And when I ask a lot of women or a lot of guys, hey, when's the last time you weren't focusing your nutrition around fat loss? When's the last time you were in an actual structured calorie surplus or eating at maintenance for an extended period of time? And they can't tell me. Or maybe they spend 12 months dieting and maybe 1 month at maintenance and then start dieting again. And they keep pushing these stress signals through their body. So the top 2 things I'd be recommending for women there are, put yourself into a calorie surplus and of course manage your training volume and your training in general as efficiently as possible. Try to get as much as you can out of as little work as you can in terms of like volume on paper. And then sleep and lifestyle stress, those 2 things go hand in hand. Really can't talk about the importance of those things enough. That would be another like 5-hour video just on here talking about those 2 things. But everything that you can do to improve and optimize your sleep, the better. And anything that you can do that's going to help you manage stress more effectively. Whether it's going to be like the last of the day-to-day stresses, the mental stress, learning how to switch off more, and just how to just wind down and take time out for yourself. These are going to be really, really important things for managing your overall orthostatic stress load, which will then help, hopefully, with bringing back the menstrual cycle if you're experiencing this hypothalamic amenorrhea. And keep in mind, like this is a woman asking this question on a female issue of hypothalamic, I don't even know how to say this thing anymore. You can read that. Hypothalamic amenorrhea. It is a feminine question, but the same principles apply to males. Okay, like you're not going to lose your menstrual cycle, guys, because you don't have a menstrual cycle, but you can get a lot of negative effects to your libido, to your sex hormones, to your testosterone. Like I see so many guys come to me and say, Coach, I've got really low testosterone levels. Should I be using TRT? I'm like, no, you shouldn't be using TRT. You're a 21-year-old kid. What you should be doing is managing your food, managing your training, managing your stress, managing your sleep. They're really important things where I would say like if you start managing that, you'll be surprised how far you can push your natural endogenous testosterone production and how much more you can get out of the gym. So guys, pay attention to that last little mini rant as well. It's not just for women who have lost their period. Okay. It's a big rant. A little sip, please. Okay. Christina Barbella. Barbella or Barbea? I'm going to go with Barbea. Your take genetics play on building muscle and staying lean. P.S. Love your page. Prayer hands, black love heart. Okay, genetics. Do genetics play a role on building muscle and staying lean? Absolutely, they do. And does that mean you should really be worrying about it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay, there are genetic factors out there that are going to mean that somebody's going to be leaner than you or have an easier time putting on muscle mass than you or a harder time doing both of those things than you. Okay, and this is where, again, like a lot of people like to jump and prey on these kinds of facts and try to spin and create a marketable product out of it. Okay, like, hey, I'm going to give you the best diet plan for your genetics. I'm going to give you the best training plan for your body type based on your genetics, which we really can't do. We don't know nearly enough about genetics to be able to say definitively you should be eating this way or you should be training this way. And as for the whole body type thing, we definitely, like body types themselves weren't actually created as this thing that we should be thinking about with respect to training and nutrition. It was more actually based on personality and psychological profiling back in the day. And then it just got bastardized to become endo, ecto, mesomorph, should be eating a certain way and training a certain way. It's complete BS. Because it doesn't really change anything about what you should do. I don't care if you fall in the category of an ectomorph or an endomorph, or if you have certain polymorphisms to your genetics, if you're Asian, if you're a redhead, if you got long hair, if you're balding, or if any of those things, genetic facts play into it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the basic physiology of how building muscle works and what we should be doing with our training. It doesn't change the basic physiological functions of how fat loss works and what we should be doing there. Okay, no matter what your genetic state, it's not going to change a thing with regards to needing to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose fat and being able to stimulate mechanical tension in order to build muscle mass and have adequate amounts of protein. So, do genetics play a role? Yes, they do. Should you really worry about genetics whatsoever? No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. You should worry about what you can manage and what you can measure, which is your protein intake, your macronutrients, your calories, your training volume, your training intensity, and everything that goes into the stuff that you do in the gym. And of course, again, your recovery. You should be thinking about things like your sleep and your stress and all those other very, 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 very important factors. And don't believe the hype. Don't buy into whatever some random fitfluencer is selling you with respect to body type diets or body type training or genetics coaching or genetics training or genetics programming. It is just complete BS. All right, let's go through another question, shall we? I'm enjoying this. We're getting through a lot of questions very quickly. Trav Daly. I think it's quick. I don't even know how long we've been going on for now. I hope this is recording. I can't really see the screen too well from here. Oh, the red button's going. Okay, we're good. We're recording. Be awkward if not. Trav Daly is asking, do you think there is a high chance of muscle loss whilst fasting? There could be. It depends. So like I mentioned at the start of this video with regards to aggressive dieting, it is actually quite hard to lose muscle, provided you're training intelligently. Again, it's coming full circle. Don't waste your volume, train as efficiently as possible, and provide you're having enough protein. Now, what's enough protein? I use Menno Henselmann's recommendations of 0.82 grams per pound of body weight, or I think it's like 1.66 or whatever, 1.66, 1.64 grams per kilogram of body weight. It is plenty. It is plenty, even if you're dieting. So if you're fasting, as long as you're getting enough protein in the day, like through the whole 24-hour period or through the entire week, it should be sufficient. Of course, if we're looking at extreme cases of fasting, like doing a multi-day fast, which I wouldn't really recommend because that's probably where you are going to start to risk cannibalizing muscle tissue, then it changes things a little bit more. But provided that your total daily intake is hitting the mark, provided your total weekly intake is hitting the mark, and then provided your training is set up as efficiently as possible, and then you're training with enough intensity as well, I don't see any reason why your body should go through cannibalizing muscle tissue. And there's no need to increase protein unnecessarily to try to preserve that when you're doing fasting periods. All right, let's do one more, shall we? _Damo Taylor. Vitamins. What works? What should we be taking? Yeah. I think that's how you would say that, isn't it? That's how you'd say that question. Look, it depends. Big it depends. What vitamins, what minerals, what supplements work. A lot of the stuff on the market does work, provided it is just a vitamin, like a vitamin C. It works. What does it do? It increases vitamin C in your body. Do you need that? I don't know. Every supplement that you take should be taken because it's going to supplement a deficiency in your body. Why is that deficiency there? Maybe because of your current lifestyle setup, maybe because of your current nutritional setup. Hopefully you're working to improve those things. But there are some cases, such as for say shift workers, where they can't get around the fact that their livelihood depends on them being shift workers. And that will then increase the depletion of certain minerals and vitamins. So they may be better off taking things like B vitamins. They may be better off taking things like magnesium or other supplements. But I don't like to give blanket recommendations on supplementation, apart from maybe creatine, like I did at the start of this video. Because I think supplements should be personalized. They should never be taken, I don't like to speak in absolutes, but most supplements shouldn't need to be taken all the time, year round. Again, depends on you and your lifestyle. But it really just comes down to the fact as well that no supplementation is ever going to be able to outperform taking care of your lifestyle, taking care of your nutrition, taking care of your sleep, and taking care of your training. Until you've checked those boxes first, I'm not going to have a conversation around supplementation, okay? Unless if we're looking at specific contexts like a shift worker, where your hands are tied and you can't make the change that you'd like to be able to make to your lifestyle, I'm really not going to go down the path of recommending a lot of supplements. And then it really comes down to the quality of your supplementation as well. Like what brands are you using, what formulas are they using in there, are they using bioavailable forms of the different compounds that they're using, or are they using very cheap forms that aren't really absorbed very easily by your body. So I can't really tell you for sure what you should be taking. It really is a very, very big it depends thing on your lifestyle. But I'll tell you, most people don't need to be taking the supplements that they're taking. The one thing that I take apart from creatine is I take a multivitamin right now. I take vitamin D at the moment because I'm not getting as much sunshine because of corona lockdowns. But outside of that, is a multivitamin essential? Probably not, but I'm dieting, so it's a little bit of insurance for me. And that's about it. That's about it. I don't think anything else is really, really, really essential or necessary. All should be taken on a needs basis for a short period of time at most. All right, it's a lot of questions done. I don't know how many that was. I don't know, let's say that it was 15,000. I don't know how long this has been, but I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to me rambling on once again. So thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.